recorded. See, basically, in the previous class, we were checking incremental load, right? So we're facing issues with it. And see, not in is working fine. So if we use in, whatever the records which is there already in the destination, those we are able to fetch it, right? So, but when comes to not in, it is not working properly. So there is another way to achieve not in functionality, right? So by default, not in when comes with selecting a different value from a table, it will not work, but whereas in will work. The alternative for that is, right? What will be the other alternative, guys? Can you think of it? Maybe can we use joins? Any other concept? Joins or subqueries? Okay, let's see. So we need to select data from the source, right? So I'll just do select star from source table. Okay, I'll just use the alias name as yes, where not exist, and then I'm writing a subquery here. In the subquery, I'm just writing select star from destination table name. Okay, and I'll just give the alias name as D, where s dot employee ID equals to D dot employee ID. Okay, let's check this one. Am I able to retrieve records with not exist? So there is a keyword called exist and not exist. So it is similar to in and not in, right? But here we can able to write a join condition here. Join in the sense we using the where clause, we are able to join the source table employee ID and then the target table employee ID, right? So based on that, we can implement the incremental load. So the same query, I'll just copy it here. Control X. And then maybe here after star, I should append one more column, right? For the location, which is BLR. Okay. So this is how I modified my code. And let me alter the stored proc. Command completed successfully. If I check the both tables data, see guys, if you want to comment any line in SQL Server, you have to click on here, comment out the selected lines. You can highlight it fully, or if you click the cursor here, then this line will get comment if you don't want to use it. So it will not consider for execution, right? We'll compare the employee IDs between these two tables. And here I don't have 8888 and 1234, right? So here in the source I have 8888 and then 1234. So if I execute the stored procedure, which is the incremental load, it should load these two records into the destination, right? So let me execute it and then we'll check the destination table records. 2 rows affected. I'll just see distinct employee ID so that we'll see whether, yeah, 1234 is inserted and also the 8888. Clear? So, and one more thing, if I execute the stored proc again, how many records will go into the destination now? If you understood incremental load clearly, you can answer it.
Maybe no records because newly there is nothing, right?
Correct. So there are no new records in the source. It will not insert any records from the source. If you add any new records into the source, then if those records are not exist in the destination, then only those newly added records will insert into the destination table because of this query. Clear? So and then guys, there are few system defined variables where we can see at the rate server name, right? Which is, you can check the server name of the instance which you are using here. If you forgot it, you can run this command, select at the rate server name, you can get your SQL server name. And also there is few more, select at version. So which version of SQL server you are using, it will retrieve. This is my version 2012 developer edition 64-bit. All right. So these are the few things you should remember. It will be useful. And at the rate row count, it will retrieve the last affected row count value by any operation. All right. So I'll show you this one example. And what else is useful? Let's see. Select at cursor rows identity. What does this will give? Did we discuss this one, guys, while discussing about identity?
Yes, it will fetch the last identity column value.
All right. So it is retrieving a null. Why? Because there is no identity operation we performed in this window. All right. So if there are any identity operations we have performed, like inserting or deleting records, we'll fetch it over here. And then at the rate error, it will retrieve the error message. Right. Since there are no errors, it will retrieve 0. And then server name, service name, text ID, tram conversion. I think that's it. These are the frequently used global variables in SQL Server, right? Yeah. And then, see, we had discussed about the input parameterized stored procedures, all right? So now let's discuss about output parameterized stored procedures. Okay. See, basically in real time, very rare we'll use those output parameterized stored procedure. But anyhow, we'll discuss the concept, how we need to write it and how to access it. Okay. And before that, anyone have any questions?
No.
No? Okay.
Amar, can you show us the increment table just which you had done in stored procedure?
Mm-hmm. Want me to show the table output?
No, no, no. Can you explain us in detail regarding that? How that generally took place?
Okay. See, basically, when we need incremental load is If let's say every time you want to load only new records into a table, so you don't want to maintain duplicate records, right? So in this scenario, the incremental load will come into picture, and using SSIS, we have options to implement incremental load. There is fewer transformations are there. Using that, we can implement. But since we are learning now SQL Server, right? So there is a in SSIS using this way will achieve the incremental load. But in SQL also we can achieve it by using this condition not exist, right? So it will check whether the records are existing in the destination table or not by comparing with source because of this condition. Because of the subquery where clause condition between source employee ID and then destination employee ID. And also there is one more way, guys, this will be your task. So there will be a command called merge in SQL Server, merge command, right? So everybody please go through this and try to learn it on your own. We'll see how many of you will clearly understand this concept. Merge command, okay? Try to Google it, or maybe you can check the YouTube videos and try to learn it. If you have any concerns, you can tell me, okay? Using this merge command, we can compare the source with the destination, and if it is matching, it will update the records. If it is not matching, then it will insert the records. Both the operations we can perform in a single statement, which is merge, right? So go through that. If you have any concerns, I'll explain you again. Okay, this is the task for you. And then stored procedure with output parameters, right? So the syntax is same, create, procedure, and then procedure name, USP underscore. Let's say if I want to fetch number of records affected by any operation, right? So I'll just use emp count and the input parameters based on salary. I'll just give salary as output input parameter at the rate int, and then the rate row count I'll just give int. And to give output parameters, we have to use the keyword called output in while giving the parameters. Okay, so that's the difference for input parameter and then output parameter. And as begin, and so what I'm trying to do is select. I'm assigning a value to this row count variable, which is the count of star. Select row count equals to count of star from EMP table, where employee salary, I'll just give the condition based on the salary, how many records the query is affecting. We'll see where e salary equals to at the rate salary. This is my code which I am returning. All right. And let's create a stored procedure. This is a simple code which I am writing here. Right. And if you want to execute, see what is the output now? It should fetch the number of rows for this provided salary, and we should get that count as output. Okay, we'll see that. So to execute a stored procedure, exec space and then stored procedure name. And usually we have to, for input parameter stored procedure, we have to pass a value, right? So let's say if I pass a value, maybe the stored procedure code will just give greater than or equal to, instead of equals to will retrieve only few values, right? So let me change it to greater than or equals to. Okay, and then let me give 1000. So I think most of the table values are maybe greater than that only. So that's why I have given employee salary greater than or equal to at the rate salary. And then guys, how to pass output parameter is stored procedure. So maybe can we pass it here with comma and then the same variable name at the rate row count? We'll see. Okay, I'm just explaining the where do you do mistakes, right? So this way we'll try to pass it for output parameter, but what it is saying, it is saying must declare the variable row count. Okay, so since we have to declare the variables, let me declare the variable at the rate row count, right? So let's see whether it will run fine or not. See what it is saying now. Okay, so what I'm missing here, guys, can anyone tell?
Data type.
Yeah, data type.
Yeah, so data type I'm missing here. Command completed successfully, but did it return the output? It is just saying command completed successfully. Did it return the output? No, right? So these are the
Print.
few things you will do mistakes. Maybe output. Still it is throwing, not warning, but it is saying just command completed successfully, right? So let's print this. This is how. See, now you can see the 7, which means the count of rows for the select query which we are returning in a stored procedure. That count we are holding it into a variable which is output variable, and to use that variable while calling a stored procedure, we have to follow this way. We have to declare a variable, and then while executing a stored procedure, we have to pass that variable with output keyword, and then we have to print that value. But basically, see guys, so you don't see generally these uh, the usage of output parameters in real time, right? And for this we can also write here select at the rate row count as well, right? Agree, guys? Using this, let's say I'm not giving any output parameter here. Okay, I'll not modify this one. I'll take this code again. I'll recreate it without output parameters. All right, I'll remove the output parameter, and then here I'll straight away use select count of star from table name. Okay, I'll create the stored procedure. Maybe I'll just give count 1. Right, command completed successfully. If I execute the stored procedure now, exec space, and then the input value is 1000, I'll give. Am I retrieving here 7? I'm able to fetch the output number of rows, right? But what is the purpose of output parameter? See, that's what. There will be a lot of cases where the output parameter is not required, but since we have option, I'm just telling you. Okay. So it's not mandatory to use output parameter. Even we can also fetch it using without using any global variables. Also direct select statement we can retrieve it, or maybe you can also include here. I told you, right? At the rate row count will give you the last row count effect, the last query row count, right? So if in a stored procedure, if you're using this row count, I mean this operation, then how many rows affected for this query will be retrieved by using this select at the rate row count, right? So, but output parameterized not that much importance in real time. That's what I meant to say. You can also achieve those output parameterized requirement using the normal method as well, right? But you have to remember this syntax in interview. Mostly till now I didn't face any questions on these output parameters, but they'll ask you like how many types of stored procedures are there. So then you have to say input parameter is stored procedure and then output parameter is stored procedure. That's it. If they'll ask you in detail, then input parameter stored procedure, we have to pass values as input to the procedure, whereas for output parameter stored procedure, we'll get the value from the stored procedure. That's what we are doing, right? So instead of giving input, we'll take output value from the stored procedure. So maybe that way you can answer them. Apart from that, nothing. Yeah. And I told you within a stored procedure, we can also create temp tables, right? So we can also perform table variables. We can also do CTE as well, right? So maybe I'll tell you a stored procedure. Maybe that will give you more examples with the same. Create procedure name USP underscore EMP underscore temp, right? And then as begin end. So within begin and end, we can write all SQL statements. Like we can also create a table. I'm just showing the example. There is no proper scenario here. I can create a table within it. Create table, and then I will create a temp table. Okay, just for physical table also we can create, guys. ID int and then name worker of temp. And then we can insert data into it. Insert into hash temp and then values. Can use one. All right. So, and if you want to join this, sorry, this closing brace should be here, table creation part. Yeah. So if you want to join back this temp table in main select statement, any of the select statement here, let's say if I'm using select star from EMP, right? And if you want to use any join here, inner join, we can join back this temp table here in the select statement. If you are performing any joins, let's say here I'll just use E and then for temp table T on E dot EMP ID equals to T dot ID, right? So this way also we can write a stored procedure. Within that we can create a table and then we can use that table here. And if you want to delete duplicates on this table, you can also write here CTE as well here with the CTE as begin. So a number of operations we can perform here, guys, within the CTE. That's what I told you in the beginning class of stored procedures, right? So we can perform all the SQL operations within a stored procedure, right? But that depends on the scenario, right? So there is no limitation with the stored procedures. Clear?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
When we create a temp table in this, once we come out of the session, then it won't be right.
Yes. See,
Again,
basically,
we need to go for the create.
No, see, once you come out of the execution, so let me remove this. EMP has EID, right? So let me use EID here. Yeah. So I'll create a stored procedure now. Okay. What's wrong here? Let's join E on
E comma.
sorry. Where?
Create spelling mistake is a create table.
Yeah.
We did not define temp as T anywhere.
I have defined, right? T.
Okay.
Create procedure name as begin. Right. So there is no syntax mistake. I don't know why. Maybe while selecting, I selected more. Don't know. Right. It created now. If I refresh it, you can see that stored proc here. See, right? So if I execute it now, XCC space stored procedure name. What happens? It will join the temp table here. Invalid column name ID. This is what we created, right? Hash temp t.id.
Employee has EID.
Oh yeah, right. So let me give alter. See, now I have created, right? So can I execute this stored person in another window here? Yes or no?
Yes.
We can, right? Every time it will create the new temp table. See, for first time if you execute it, it will consider as a one session or one window. So if I execute it again the stored procedure code will run, and then it will create the temp table, it will insert, and then it will join the condition. That's it. It won't throw any error. Got it? I think someone asked the question, right? So are you clear now?
Yeah, thank you.
Now tell me, maybe functions we'll discuss tomorrow. We'll finish the performance tuning tips. So maybe how many ever possible, I can do that many. All right. So if I execute a stored procedure now, am I returning here? One row is affected, one row is affected, guys. Are you able to see? Right. So how does this count will be fetched as output? One row is affected. So do you think this is a count or not? It's a count of rows affected by this stored procedure, right?
Yes.
But backgroundly it has to perform aggregate function, right, to calculate the number of rows, if it is a count or any other function, right? So usually aggregate functions will take time. Why? Because first it has to fetch all the values available in the table, and then it will calculate the aggregation. If it is average, then sum of all divided by number of rows, right? So this is bit time taking process. So that's why whenever you are writing a stored procedure, if there is no need, try to disable this number of rows affected by it by declaring here set no count on. Using this keyword, you can disable this number of rows affected by this query. So I'll just alter the stored procedure now. If I execute it, are you able to see now? One row is affected? No, right? You cannot see now, right, guys? Control is affected.
Yes.
So
Yes.
using set no count on, if you use the set no count on in beginning of the stored procedure, so what it will do is it will not consider the number of rows affected by any of the operation within a stored procedure, so that we can save that aggregate operation time. So basically aggregations, as I told you, aggregation operations will take some time and we can reduce that time. See, for now it is 1 row or 10 rows or 1,000 rows, that's fine. But if you are operating on a 1 lakhs of records or crores of records, then performing aggregate is takes more time, right? So if you implement this, that operation won't be performed backgroundly, set no count on, right? So this is one thing when you need to consider the performance point of view. And also I told you, right? So if you're executing any stored procedure code, if you're executing any code, try to check the execution plan, right? And whether it's performing index seek or index scan, table scan it's going, right? Why? Because it's a table scan or index scan. There is no indexes. See here you can see on employee ID it is index seek. Why? Because we have created indexes on EMP table here. But whereas on the temp table here, the temp table operation is table scan. There is no index on this table, so that's why it is going for the table scan. So what you need to say is I'll check the stored procedure code and try to execute the code with execution plan, and I'll check it whether it is using index seek or index scan or table scan. So if it is using the scans, then I'll go ahead and create indexes on the join fields, first thing. And also where class filters, if there are any where class filters on the table, right, where e dot age greater than some 20, we also I told you, right, while telling the concept of indexes, we have to create indexes on also the join fields. If there are multiple joins involved in a query, you need to create indexes on join fields and also the where class filters, so that the query will run faster by utilizing index seek operation, right? And what you need to say is once after creating indexes, I'll see or I'll check the performance of the code, whether it is improved or not. If it is still taking time, then I'll check each individual table count here. Okay, so let's say I'll check each individual table count, select count of star from EMB. This is one of the table I'm using in the joins, right? And let's assume this table is having some 1 crore records. Assume EMB table has 1 crore records, right? So to perform on join on 1 crore records, and after that, see how this query will work, guys. First thing is it will try to retrieve the data and it will do join, and on top of the joined data, again it will apply the filter. What do you think? So performing join on crores of records and then filtering again on top of the crore of records will take a lot of time, right? Operating on huge volume of records. So instead of that, if you observe at any of the table is having huge volume of records, try to insert those records into a temp table, right? So select star into, we have the syntax, right? Select star into hash emp, which is temp table from employee table, where I'll just use this condition as well here itself. What happens now? While inserting data into a temp table, it will filter out the data. Let's say here the count is 1 crore. If you use this filter, it may reduce it to 40 lakhs while inserting into temp table. So now if you join back this temp table here, now on how many records the join will perform here, guys? It will perform on the 40 lakh records instead of 1 crore, right? Since we have introduced this where clause filter while inserting data into a temp table. Clear? And if you join back this temp table here instead of the main table, the joins will perform on the less volume of records, which is 40 lakhs. So joining 40 lakh records with other table is easy, or 1 crore with other table will be faster. So this is faster, right? Joining with 40 lakh records with the other tables. So this is another way you need to answer for performance point of view. Clear? Or any confusion here? Instead of joining the main table, we have to create a temp table along with the where clause filter, and then join back this temp table, which is the filter data of main table, and so that the query will run faster. Why? Because instead of joining a 1 crore record with other tables, it will join now 40 lakh records with other tables in the select statement, so that obviously the operation will be faster, right?
Yeah, a little bit confusion only, like temp tables. By using temp tables, we
Okay,
can
I think
access.
it's time up, guys. I'll send you link again, join back. We'll continue another 30 minutes. Okay.
Okay.